The fog was a liar. At 6:47 on the morning of November 3rd, 1944, that fog clung to the ruins of Metz, France like a cold, wet shroud. It promised concealment. It promised safety. And crouched inside what remained of a bakery, Private First Class Thomas Sullivan was praying it would stay just a little longer. 23 American snipers were dead. 3 weeks, all killed the same way, shot while searching for targets they never saw. Sullivan was about to become number 24, unless a 10-cent shaving mirror taped to his rifle scope could break the unbeatable German killing system. He was 22 years old. His hands were numb. The M1903 Springfield felt like ice against his shoulder. Through a jagged crack in the bakery wall, he watched the world emerge in shades of grey. Across the street, 400 yards distant, the German positions were ghosts, slowly taking solid form as the sun began its weak November ascent. The scope on his rifle was both weapon and blindfold. 8-power magnification. At 400 yards, he could count the buttons on an enemy uniform. But the field of view was an 8-degree cone, 50 feet wide at that distance. Everything outside that narrow tunnel was invisible, like hunting through a toilet paper tube while wolves circled behind you. Somewhere in those ruins, German snipers were using a tactic called Doppelstellung, the double position. Fire from position A, move to position B while the Americans searched position A, shoot the Americans from position B while they focused on the wrong place. The math was simple and brutal. Germans aimed while Americans searched. Germans fired first, always. Sullivan was waiting for his third partner. The first two were dead. Both killed the exact same way. Both never saw the German who shot them. Today was different. Today Sullivan had a mirror, crude and unauthorized, mounted to his scope with electrical tape. It might save him. It might fall off during the first shot and get him killed. But he was done following regulations that got his partners killed. He took a slow breath. The air smelled of cordite and wet plaster and something older. Death, maybe. Or just November in a destroyed city where too many men had already died. The fog was lifting. Time to find out if desperation could defeat doctrine. Thomas Sullivan was born in 1922 in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Population 3,800. Coal mining town where the company owned the houses and the store and the future. His father worked underground. 12-hour shifts in the dark. Came home black with dust every night. 1933. Mine collapse. Sullivan was 11 years old when they told him his father wasn't coming home. 7 kids. Mother worked 3 jobs. No money for anything extra. No money for meat at the store. Tommy learned to shoot at age 8. Not for sport, for survival. Borrowed .22 rifle from a neighbor. Went into the Pennsylvania mountains before school. Rabbits, squirrels, deer when he got older and steadier. Every bullet had to count because there was no money to waste. Missed the shot the family ate less that week. 10,000 hours of practice by the time he turned 18. Patience learned from necessity. Reading terrain, reading wind, reading distance. The kind of skills the army couldn't teach in basic training because they took years to develop. They took hunger. At 16 he got work as a machinist apprentice. Learned precision. Tolerances measured to 1/10,000th of an inch. The same eyes that tracked rabbits through autumn leaves now measured steel. 2 skills born from poverty. Wilderness hunting and mechanical precision. The army wouldn't teach either one. 1943. Draft notice. Age 21. Fort Benning for basic. Then sniper school. He graduated top of his class not because of army training, but because of 10 years hunting to keep his family fed. September 1944. Deployed to France. 5th Infantry Division. Arrived at Metz in late September as the American advance ground to a halt against German fortifications. Over 200 fortified positions, machine gun nests, interlocking fields of fire, and snipers, German snipers who were different, patient, invisible, lethal. October 1944. Sullivan watched American snipers die. 3 in his first week. All killed the same way. Shot while looking through their scopes. The pattern was obvious, the solution was not. Intelligence briefings described the German doctrine. Doppelstellung. 2 prepared positions 30 to 100 yards apart, connected by tunnel or trench or sewer. The sequence was mechanical. Fire 1 shot from position A. The American sniper would dive for cover and do exactly what training taught him to do. Scan the area around the muzzle flash. Triangulate. Search. Find the enemy. It took time. 12 seconds. 15. Maybe 20. Time to settle the scope. Control breathing. Search the rubble. Look for the glint of steel or glass. But while the American was searching, the German was moving, crawling through the prepared route to position B. And from position B, he wasn't searching. He was aiming, right at the spot where the American sniper had to be. By the time the American had his scope trained on position A, the German was already pulling the trigger from position B. The math was perfect. Americans always 2 to 4 seconds too late. The Germans shot first. Always. Sullivan understood the problem. The scope created tunnel vision. Perfect for targets. Fatal for threats outside that narrow cone. Everything not in that 8-degree window ceased to exist. And the Germans knew it. They didn't attack what the Americans were watching. They attacked from angles the Americans couldn't see. By early November 23, American snipers were dead in Metz, not infantrymen charging into machine gun fire. Snipers, the elite, the best marksmen in their battalions. The hunters had become the hunted. 23 empty bunks, 23 letters home that started with "We regret to inform you." 23 men erased, all killed while searching through scopes that showed them everything except the threat that mattered. Sullivan's first partner was Corporal James Crawford, 24 years old, farm kid from Nebraska, the kind of quiet, steady presence who could hit a running rabbit at 200 yards. 9 confirmed kills in 3 weeks. Best in the platoon, they partnered up in early October, both working class. Both understood this wasn't about glory, just mathematics of survival. October 18th, morning. They set up in a collapsed textile mill. Target was German positions across the factory district. 400 yards. Crawford was on the scope. Sullivan was spotting with binoculars watching the flanks. 7:22. Crawford whispered. Movement. Factory 3rd floor. Left window. Sullivan confirmed through binoculars. Dark shape. Could be a sniper setting up. Crawford settled in. Breath control. Finger on the trigger. Then the world compressed into 3 sounds separated by fractions of a heartbeat. Snap. The bullet breaking the sound barrier. Thwack. Impact. Crack. The distant rifle report half a second late like thunder after lightning. 7.92mm Mauser round. It hit Crawford high on the head. He was dead before his body reached the floor. He had been scanning forward when the shot came from the flank. A side window 400 yards away at a 90-degree angle from where he was looking. Sullivan never saw the muzzle flash, never saw the German. He fired 3 rounds at the window. Suppression fire, pure instinct. But he knew the man who had been eating rations with him 10 minutes earlier was gone. The German sniper had spotted them, aimed, fired, and likely vanished before Sullivan even understood they were being hunted. Artillery barrage pinned them down. Sullivan sat with Crawford's body for 4 hours, waiting for dusk. The weight of a dead man in a war zone is more than pounds and gear. It's the weight of failed mathematics, the weight of knowing the system is broken and you can't fix it. That night, Sullivan carried Crawford back through the ruins. 160 pounds plus equipment. His arms shook. It took 40 minutes. Command sent a replacement the next morning. The mission continued. The line had to be held. Sullivan couldn't sleep. He replayed the sequence endlessly. Crawford had been looking through his scope. 8-degree cone focused 400 yards forward on the factory. The German shot from the flank. Same distance, different angle. Crawford never had a chance to turn his scope. The scope had killed him as much as the bullet. Sullivan interviewed survivors from other teams. The pattern was always identical. 23 American snipers dead in Metz. All killed while searching for targets. All shot from angles they weren't watching. None ever saw their killer. Perfect magnification created perfect vulnerability. With current tactics, American snipers could not win. They could only delay their death. Refusing missions meant court-martial. Sullivan was trapped in a mathematical certainty. He would die like Crawford. The only question was when. His second partner arrived on October 21st, Private First Class Robert Chen, 23 years old, from San Francisco. Chinese-American with sharp eyes and steady hands and a bit of city swagger. 12 confirmed kills. An artist with the Springfield. Different from Crawford, not quiet farm patience but calculating urban speed. They worked together for 8 days. Whispered conversations in the dark. Shared stale bread. Watched each other's backs. Chen joked about California beaches. Opening a restaurant after the war. Sullivan actually started to believe they might both survive. October 29th, 11 days after Crawford. New sector. Rubble near a trench line. German positions in a destroyed apartment complex 350 yards away. 8:14 in the morning. Sullivan was spotting. Chen was on the scope scanning windows for movement. Chen whispered, "Got something. Top floor right corner." Then the sequence. The 3 sounds Sullivan would hear in nightmares for the rest of his life. Snap. Thwack. But this time the sound was different. Wet. Chen dropped the scope, looked at Sullivan, confused, tried to speak. Only a gasp came out. Sullivan saw it. Chest wound, left side. Blood spreading across Chen's jacket like spilled ink. "Bobby! Bobby!" Chen looked down at himself. "I'm hit!" Sullivan ripped open the field dressing with shaking hands, pressed it against the wound. Blood bubbled through the fabric. Dark and frothy, punctured lung. Chen was drowning. Medic! Medic! No response. Machine gun fire was pinning down the medics 100 yards away. They couldn't reach the position. Sullivan kept pressure on the wound, but the blood soaked through the bandage through his hands, pooling on the dusty floor. Chen tried to speak again. Couldn't. Only that horrible wet gasping. The sound of a man drowning on dry land. Time stopped being linear. Every second stretched into an hour. Sullivan counted without meaning to. Minute 5. Chen's hand grabbed Sullivan's sleeve. Desperate grip. Eyes wide. Conscious. Terrified. Begging without words. Please don't let me die. Minute 10. Sullivan was screaming for medics. No answer. Fire too heavy. Stay with me, Bobby. Stay with me. You're going to be okay. Just hold on. Both of them knew it was a lie. Minute 15. Chen's gasping was shallower. Still conscious, still looking at Sullivan's face, still begging with his eyes. Minute 20. The blood flow was slowing. Not because the bleeding stopped, because he was running out. Minute 25. Chen's grip was weakening, eyes still open, still aware, still dying one terrible second at a time. Minute 30. Sullivan talked constantly, anything to fill the silence between gasps. California, beaches, restaurants, plans for after the war, all lies told to a dying man. Minute 37. Chen's hand fell away from Sullivan's sleeve. Minute 39. The gasping stopped. Minute 40. Chen's eyes stayed open, but they were empty now, the light behind them gone. Just glass reflecting nothing. The medics arrived at minute 42, pronounced him dead, then left because there were living men who needed help more than corpses needed comfort. Sullivan sat alone with the body. Blood covered his hands, his jacket, his pants. Chen's face was still surprised, still scared, still 23 years old. The German sniper had been concealed in a pile of rubble 350 yards away. Perfect hide, a small hole in a mountain of bricks. He was long gone. Probably been watching them for an hour before taking the shot. That night Sullivan didn't eat, didn't clean the blood off his uniform, sat in the dark staring at his rifle. The pattern was complete now, unbreakable. 1. American sniper sets up position. 2. American sniper searches through scope. Tunnel vision, 8-degree cone. 3. German sniper already positioned fires from the flank. 4. American sniper dies. Crawford died instantly. Chen died over 40 minutes. Both died the same way, looking through a scope while a German watched from an angle they couldn't see. Sullivan was alone now, sniper without a spotter. Command said a new partner was being transferred. Sullivan knew the truth. They were just assigning him a new man to watch die. He was number 24 on the list. He just didn't know the date yet. 2 choices. Continue missions and die like Crawford and Chen, or solve the unsolvable problem. He chose the second option. He had no idea how. November 2nd. Night. Sullivan was cleaning his kit. Not his rifle. That was already immaculate. His personal gear. He opened his shaving bag, bar of soap, worn razor, and a 4x6-inch mirror. Standard military issue. Metal frame. Scratched but still reflective. He picked it up, stared at his own reflection. 22 years old but looking 40. Exhausted. Haunted by 2 faces that would never leave him. He looked from the mirror to his rifle lying on the cot. From the rifle back to the mirror. An idea formed. Insane. Desperate. Brilliant. What if he could see behind him while still looking forward? Mount the mirror to the scope. Use peripheral vision. See flanking threats while maintaining target acquisition. It was completely against regulations. Modifying precision sniper equipment without ordnance approval was court-martial offense. Minimum punishment was dishonorable discharge. But Crawford was dead. Chen was dead. 23 men were dead. Sullivan didn't want to be number 24. He worked alone that night. 3rd floor of a ruined hotel. 01:45 hours. Single dim flashlight. He could see his breath fogging in the cold beam. From his pack he pulled the mirror. The electrical tape salvaged from signal core wire. Knife. Wire cutters. Not precision tools, the tools of a desperate man. He set the Springfield on a makeshift table of broken furniture. The scope sat 3 inches above the barrel. The mirror had to be positioned where he could see it while his eye was pressed to the scope. But it couldn't block his sight picture. Couldn't interfere with the bolt operation. 20 minutes of trial and error. Hands going numb. Testing positions. Too high and he had to lift his eye from the scope. Fatal. Too low and it blocked the bolt. Too far forward and the angle was useless. Finally he found it. Left side of the scope, 45-degree angle, 8 inches forward of his eye position. From there, when he looked through the scope, he could see the mirror in his left peripheral vision. A tiny flickering image. A fractional shift of his eye, not his head, and he could see his flank. See behind him. His hands were shaking as he began installation. Not from the cold, from the terrible gravity of what he was doing. This violated everything. Unauthorized modifications, altering military property. But Chen's face kept appearing in the dim light. Chen gasping for air, blood bubbling from his chest, dying slowly while Sullivan watched helpless. Chen had been looking forward. The German shot him from the side. If Chen had been able to see that flanking angle, he might still be alive. Sullivan cut strips of electrical tape, wrapped them around the mirror frame for cushioning, wrapped more around the scope tube for grip. The mirror had to stay in place during recoil, couldn't shift, couldn't rattle. It took 40 agonizing minutes. Twice the mirror fell clattering against the broken floor. Each time his heart pounded. If anyone heard if an officer investigated, he would be in irons before morning. Finally it held. He shouldered the rifle, pressed his eye to the scope, aimed at a dark stain on the far wall, glanced left. The mirror showed him the doorway, the hallway behind him, his entire rear arc. It worked. He ran the tape around the frame 3 more times, securing it tight, making it solid. The modification looked crude, obviously not factory equipment. Any officer who inspected the rifle would see it instantly. But Sullivan didn't plan on letting officers inspect his rifle. He cleaned up the tape scraps, put away his tools, 0445. In 5 hours he would be moving to a new position in the industrial district. German snipers owned that sector. 3 Americans had been killed there in the past week. Tomorrow Sullivan would find out if a 10-cent piece of glass could change the mathematics of death. The fog was lifting now. Through the crack in the bakery wall, Sullivan could see the German factory taking shape. 400 yards. Somewhere in those ruins they were waiting. His new partner would arrive any minute. Private Sam Rodriguez, 19 years old. From Texas, 3 weeks as a sniper. 0 kills. Scared. Sullivan touched the crude mirror taped to his scope. Crawford was dead. Chen was dead. 23 men were dead. Today the math would change, or Sullivan would become number 24. Either way, he was done dying by doctrine. The sun broke through the fog. Time to hunt. Rodriguez arrived at 0630, 19 years old with eyes that had seen too much in 3 weeks. He moved quiet through the rubble. M1 Garand held ready, and when he saw Sullivan waiting in the destroyed bakery, there was relief in his face. Relief at not being alone. Relief that lasted exactly 4 seconds. That was how long it took Rodriguez to notice the contraption taped to Sullivan's rifle scope. He stopped, stared. His mouth opened. "What is that?" Sullivan looked at him. Kept his voice flat. "Survival." Rodriguez didn't ask anything else. Something in Sullivan's tone said the conversation was over. They moved into position. Rodriguez covered the entrance with his Garand, watching for German infantry. Sullivan settled behind his Springfield, the brick oven providing solid cover within the ruin. Through the crack in the south wall, he had a narrow view of the German-held factory complex. 400 yards away. Perfect sniper terrain. The morning fog was lifting fast now. The factory emerged from grey into sharp detail. Broken windows, collapsed roofs, piles of rubble that could hide anything. Somewhere in that wreckage, German snipers were setting up, waiting, hunting. Sullivan pressed his eye to the scope. 8-power magnification brought the factory into terrible focus. He began his scan, left to right, slow, methodical, looking for a shadow too dark, looking for movement, looking for the tiny circular glint of an enemy scope. His field of view was that same narrow cone, 50 feet wide at 400 yards. But now in his left peripheral vision, the mirror was there. Small, scratched, distorted. It showed the street behind him, the ruined buildings across the way, his flanks. Not perfect, but something more than the blindness that had killed 23 men. 0723. He saw it. Movement in the factory. 3rd floor, damaged window. A shadow shifted. Could be debris moving in the wind. Could be nothing. He held his aim, controlled his breathing. The movement came again. Human. Definitely human. A German soldier moving careful. A sniper setting up position. Sullivan calculated distance. 410 yards. No wind. An easy shot for the Springfield. His finger tightened on the trigger. He was about to end it. And then he saw it. In the mirror. A flicker. A tiny shift of light behind him. Sullivan did not move. Did not turn his head. kept his eye glued to the scope, his rifle aimed at the factory. But his attention snapped to the mirror like a compass finding north. He watched the reflection. There. Glint of a scope. Dark line of a rifle barrel. A German sniper in the building behind them. 3rd floor. Left window. Aiming directly at the crack in the bakery wall where Sullivan was positioned. The German had been watching them for minutes. Was right now taking his last breath before pulling the trigger. This was the exact moment Crawford died. The exact moment Chen died. Focused on a target to the front while a flanking sniper prepared the kill shot. But Sullivan saw him. The mirror worked. He kept his rifle locked on the factory. Whispered. Barely breath. Rodriguez, German sniper. Building behind us. 3rd floor left window. Aiming at us right now. Rodriguez didn't flinch. Didn't panic. Just moved smooth and slow. Brought the M1 Garand up. Aimed toward the building behind them. Found the window. Rodriguez whispered back. I see him. Sullivan's voice was steady. On my count. I take the one in the factory. You take the one behind us. 3, 2, 1. Fire! The Springfield cracked. The recoil slammed into Sullivan's shoulder like a mule kick. 410 yards. Through the scope he saw the German in the factory jerk backward. Hit center mass. The man fell out of view. The instant Sullivan fired, Rodriguez fired. The M1 Garand roared. The 30-06 round punched through the window frame behind them. The German sniper, the one who had been seconds from killing Sullivan, slumped forward. His rifle tumbled from the window, clattered into the street below. 2 shots, 2 kills, 5 seconds. Sullivan worked the bolt, the spent casing ejected hot and spinning. He loaded a fresh round, scanned through the scope again. The mirror showed no more threats. Clear. Rodriguez was breathing hard, adrenaline dumping through his system. He stared at Sullivan with something like awe. That German was about to shoot you. He had you dead. How did you see him? Sullivan tapped the crude tape-covered mirror mounted to his scope. Rodriguez stared at it for a long moment. Then he said the words that would change everything. You need to put that on every sniper rifle in this battalion. The engagement that morning lasted 4 hours and 43 minutes. Sullivan's team eliminated 6 German snipers. Sullivan got 4, Rodriguez got 2, and the mirror saved their lives 3 more times beyond that opening double kill. 0834. American infantry was preparing to advance across the street below their position. 30 men getting ready to cross open ground. Sullivan was scanning Overwatch when the mirror caught movement. A German team on a rooftop 250 yards behind the American position, setting up an MG-42 machine gun. If that gun opened fire, 30 Americans would be caught exposed in the street. A slaughter. Sullivan called it. Rodriguez shifted position, found the angle, saw all 3 Germans assembling the weapon. He fired 6 rapid shots. All 3 Germans fell. The MG-42 stayed silent. The American infantry advanced across the street. Never knew they had been seconds from an ambush. Later, Sullivan would learn one of those 30 men was a private named Danny Morrison, 19 years old, from Ohio. Just arrived in France 2 weeks earlier. Would have been killed in the first MG-42 burst. Morrison survived the war. Went home. Raised 4 kids. Lived to 78. He never knew a mirror saved his life. 0947. A sniper duel was developing 200 yards to Sullivan's left. An American team sergeant, Mike Reynolds, and his spotter was engaged with a German sniper in the church ruins 500 yards out. Reynolds was focused on the church. Didn't see the second German sniper flanking from a warehouse. 350 yards. Sullivan saw him in the mirror. The German was creeping into position, about to shoot Reynolds from the flank. The exact tactic that killed Crawford. Sullivan swung his rifle, tracked the target through his scope. The German was settling into position, raising his rifle toward Reynolds. Sullivan fired. The German dropped. Reynolds never knew a second sniper had existed, never knew he had been seconds from death. Reynolds survived Metz, survived the war, returned to Montana, became a sheriff, raised 3 daughters, taught them all to shoot, lived to 81. He never knew Sullivan's name. 1047. An American officer was doing reconnaissance near the factory. Lieutenant James Parker with 2 scouts, exposed, 300 yards from Sullivan's position. A German sniper team spotted them. 2 Germans, coordinated shot, both aiming at Parker. Sullivan saw one through his scope. Factory window. Rodriguez, watching the mirror, saw the second. Adjacent rooftop. Parker was standing exposed, studying a map. Didn't see either threat. 2 targets. Simultaneous. I got factory. You got roof. Rodriguez confirmed. Roger. 3, 2, 1. Fire, double shot. Both Germans down. Parker never flinched. Never knew he had been in 2 sets of crosshairs at once. Parker survived the war, returned to Philadelphia, became a high school teacher, taught history for 35 years, inspired hundreds of students, lived to 84, never knew a crude mirror, and 2 quick shots saved his life. By 11:30 hours, the engagement was over. 6 German snipers eliminated. 0 American casualties in Sullivan's sector. The statistics were impossible. Normal engagements in Metz ran 1 or 2 kills with 50% casualty rates. Sullivan's team had 6 kills and walked away without a scratch. By 1400 hours, word was spreading. Other sniper teams heard the numbers and wanted to know how. Rodriguez told them about the mirror. That evening, the first convert found Sullivan. Sergeant Frank Wilson, 28 years old from Montana. Experienced hunter who had lost 2 partners in 3 weeks, both killed by flanking shots they never saw coming. Wilson had heard about Sullivan's 6 kills and 0 casualties. Impossible numbers. He found Sullivan in the ruined hotel where the snipers sheltered. How 6 kills? 0 casualties, 4 hours. How did you do it? Sullivan showed him the mirror. Wilson stared at it for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. That's against every regulation in the book. Sullivan met his eyes. Crawford is dead. Chen is dead. 23 men are dead. You want to follow regulations, or do you want to survive? Wilson took a breath. Teach me. That night, in the same dark room where Sullivan had built his first mirror, he installed one on Wilson's rifle, showed him the angle, the position, how to use peripheral vision instead of turning his head, how to coordinate with his spotter. Wilson tested it, looked through the scope, glanced at the mirror, saw his entire rear arc appear in that scratched reflection. It's perfect. I should have thought of this. Sullivan's voice was flat. You didn't watch your partner drown in his own blood for 40 minutes. Wilson went silent. The next morning, Wilson's team engaged German snipers near the cathedral. Wilson spotted 2 using the mirror. Both were positioning for flanking shots. He eliminated both before they could fire. That night he came back talking fast, eyes bright. The modification saved my life. I saw them before they saw me. They never had a chance. He told every sniper he knew. By November 8th, Sullivan had installed mirrors on 9 rifles. The modification spread like wildfire. Sniper to sniper, team to team. Men stopped waiting for Sullivan. They started making their own mirrors using whatever they could scavenge from the ruins. Broken window glass polished smooth. Belt buckles buffed to a shine, chrome ripped from destroyed vehicles, pieces of shattered picture frames. One farm boy from Iowa used leather straps cut from a German gas mask case to mount his mirror. The methods varied, the materials were improvised, but the principle was always the same. Give the hunter 360-degree vision. Break the tunnel vision that killed 23 men. The statistics started to shift. October before the mirror. American sniper kill ratio was 1:2. Lose 2 Americans for every 1 German killed. 23 American snipers killed in action in Metz. The German Doppelstellung doctrine was undefeated. Early November, as the mirror spread, the ratio shifted toward 2:1. American casualties dropping. German tactics starting to fail. Mid-November, with mirrors on every rifle in the battalion. Kill ratio hit 4:1. 4 Germans killed for every 1 American lost. German snipers were avoiding engagement. The tactical advantage wasn't just shifting, it was being conquered. November 10th, Captain Robert Hayes came to inspect. Hayes commanded the battalion sniper platoon. Career Army. 12 years in service. He knew every manual, every regulation, every protocol by heart. He was a by-the-book officer doing a by-the-book inspection. Checking equipment, verifying rifle zeros, making sure his men were maintaining standards. He climbed the stairs to Sullivan's position in a bombed-out church tower. Saw Sullivan, saw Rodriguez, and saw the mirror taped to the Springfield. He stopped, stared at it for 10 silent seconds. What is that Private Sullivan's stomach dropped? This was it. The court-martial. Everything he had feared. Before he could answer, Rodriguez spoke up. It's a mirror, sir. A modification. Rodriguez explained everything. Fast and clear. Crawford's instant death, Chen's 40-minute agony, the German flanking tactics, how the mirror let them see threats outside the scope's field of view, how it had saved their lives multiple times. He finished with the truth. It's completely unauthorized, sir. But it works. Hayes looked at Rodriguez, looked at Sullivan. Then he walked over to the rifle. Didn't yell, didn't threaten, just examined the crude tape, tested the angle of the mirror. Then he bent down and put his eye to Sullivan's scope, glanced at the mirror, saw what it showed. He stood up. His face was unreadable. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. How many rifles have this modification? Sullivan's throat was dry. 9, sir, including mine. Hayes was silent for another long moment. Sullivan prepared himself for a rest, for irons, For the end of everything. Then Hayes said something Sullivan never expected. By tomorrow morning, I want every sniper rifle in this battalion to have one. That's an order, Private. He looked directly at Sullivan. I'll handle the paperwork. You focus on keeping my men alive. Sullivan stood there stunned. Hayes, the man who lived by regulations, had just made an unauthorized court-martial, worthy field modification official battalion policy. Hayes understood something that the officers in the rear never would. Regulations were ink on paper. His men were blood and bone. In October, Hayes had written 23 letters to families. 23 men dead under his command following official doctrine. Now Sullivan's violation had produced survival rates that were impossible under the regulations. Hayes was willing to risk his career to save his snipers. If High Command wants to court-martial me for this, he told Sullivan, then so be it, but I'm not losing another man to a tactic we can defeat with a 10-cent mirror. He ordered Sullivan to teach the modification to every sniper. Tonight, Sullivan didn't sleep. He worked, recruited Wilson Rodriguez and the other snipers who already had mirrors, showed them the exact angle, the proper positioning, how to tape it so the recoil wouldn't shatter the glass, how to mount it so it wouldn't shift during rapid fire. They worked all night in the basement of a ruined building, a secret factory of desperate men building weapons the army would never approve. Some used tape, others used salvaged telephone wire. The Iowa farm boy showed everyone his leather strap method. Nobody cared about standardization. They cared about survival. By the morning of November 12th, every sniper in the battalion had a mirror on his rifle. The German snipers walked into a buzzsaw. Their world changed overnight. The Doppelstellung doctrine that had been unbeatable for 3 months suddenly got them killed. They would set up their 2 positions, fire from position. A, expecting the Americans to foolishly scan that spot while they moved to position B, but the American wasn't scanning position A anymore. He was already watching position B in his mirror. Again and again, German snipers moving to their secondary positions were met by a single 30-06 round from an American they thought they were outsmarting. The tactics that killed 23 men in October were now killing the Germans who used them. Captured intelligence reports from mid-November showed the confusion. German commanders in Metz wrote about unusual and aggressive American sniper tactics. Americans were engaging flanking positions they should not have been able to see. Americans were counterattacking before the Germans could fire their second shot. The reports asked for tactical evaluation, requested new doctrine. The Germans couldn't understand what had changed. They tried to adapt. Engaged from 600 to 800 yards instead of 300 to 400. Thought distance would hide their flanking movements. It didn't work. The mirror showed movement regardless of distance. American teams spotted Germans repositioning at 800 yards and eliminated them during movement. November 16th, a veteran German sniper named Klaus Richter, 43 confirmed kills, attempted an 800-yard flanking maneuver. Spotted by a mirror. Killed by Wilson at 780 yards while crawling to his second position. The Germans tried multiple simultaneous snipers, 3 or 4 at once, hoping to overwhelm the Americans. It failed. American teams with mirrors were invulnerable. One man watched the scope forward. One man watched the mirror for flanks and rear. Nothing got past them. November 19th, 4 German snipers coordinated an attack on Sullivan's position. Sullivan spotted 2 through his scope. Rodriguez spotted 2 in the mirror. All 4 were eliminated in a 90-second engagement. The Germans tried high-angle shots, attacking from above where mirrors couldn't easily see. It worked occasionally but required rare terrain with elevation advantage. Most of Metz was flat rubble. High positions were rare, obvious, and exposed. November 22nd. A German sniper attempted a rooftop shot on Wilson's team. Wilson spotted the scope glint in the very edge of his mirror's reflection. Counter-sniped. The German fell. By November 25th, the unthinkable happened. German snipers in Metz started avoiding engagement. They were hunting prey they could see everywhere at once. It was suicide. A captured diary from early December written by a German sniper told the story. The Americans have changed. They see us before we see them. They know where we are before we fire. We lost 3 teams this week. We are ordered to withdraw from active sniper operations until new tactics can be developed. The hunters have become the hunted. The tactical advantage wasn't shifting. It was conquered. And it had been conquered by a 10-cent piece of glass and some electrical tape. By a coal miner's son who couldn't stand to watch another partner die. By men desperate enough to violate every regulation because survival mattered more than protocol. The mirror had changed the mathematics of death. And the war in Metz would never be the same. Sullivan's best week came in late November, November 20th through the 26th, 6 days when the mirror wasn't just saving lives but dominating the battlefield in ways that shouldn't have been possible. 21 confirmed kills in 6 days, his career total hit 47. Rodriguez added 14 more. Their survival rate stayed at 100%. Across the battalion, American sniper casualties dropped to 3 men for the entire month, 3 compared to 23 in October. German sniper casualties climbed past 70. The kill ratio held at 4-1. The numbers told a story the Germans couldn't understand and the army wouldn't believe. The Mirror saved Sullivan 6 more times that week. November 21st. A German crawled through rubble 180 yards behind Sullivan's position. Sullivan caught the movement in his mirror. A shadow shifting wrong. Eliminated the threat before the German reached firing position. November 23rd. 2 Germans attempted a pincer movement, both trying to flank from different angles simultaneously. Both appeared in Sullivan's mirror before they were in position. Both eliminated. November 24th. Sullivan saw a scope glint in his mirror. A German sniper 2 seconds from firing. Sullivan dropped return fire blind. The German died before pulling his trigger. November 26th. High angle shot. A German on a rooftop. The bullet passed 6 inches from Sullivan's head, close enough to feel the pressure wave. The mirror showed the muzzle flash. Rodriguez returned fire. The German fell. November 28th. The mirror reflected movement in a destroyed basement. Sullivan spotted a German team positioning a Panzerfaust anti-tank weapon. American armor was rolling up the street. Sullivan eliminated both Germans before they could fire. Saved a Sherman tank and its 5-man crew who never knew they'd been targeted. December 1st. 3 German infantry tried to flank during an artillery barrage. The mirror caught them moving through smoke. Sullivan's team withdrew before the ambush could spring, lived to fight another day. 6 times, 6 moments when Sullivan should have died. 6 times the mirror gave him seconds he wouldn't have had. Crawford and Chen didn't get those seconds. 23 men didn't get those seconds. But Sullivan did, and so did Wilson, and Rodriguez, and Morrison, and Reynolds, and Parker, and 40 others whose names Sullivan would never know. December 8th brought the last German sniper in Metz who refused to quit. Hauptmann Ernst Weber, 34 years old, veteran of the Eastern Front with 67 confirmed kills. While other German snipers withdrew from active operations, Weber stayed. He was too experienced, too proud, or too stubborn to run from Americans with mirrors. Weber studied American behavior, realized they were somehow seeing flanking positions. He didn't know about the mirrors, couldn't know. The innovation was too crude, too simple for a trained German officer to imagine. But he knew the Americans had changed, so he adapted, stopped using flanking tactics, attacked only from positions the Americans were already watching. No surprise angles, direct duels only, sniper against sniper, skill against skill. 0847. Sullivan positioned in factory ruins, German fortress complex 500 yards distant, Rodriguez spotting, both scanning, movement, factory window, a German sniper settling into position. But something was wrong. The movement was too obvious, too easy. Sullivan aimed but held fire, watched. The German appeared briefly in the window, then disappeared. Testing, probing. For 2 hours it was cat and mouse. Weber appeared in different windows, never long enough for a clean shot. Testing Sullivan's patience, waiting for Sullivan to commit, waiting for the muzzle flash that would reveal Sullivan's exact position. Sullivan didn't bite. Knew this one was good, experienced. First man to fire would give away his position. So he waited. Rodriguez whispered, "Why don't you shoot? He's good. Wants me to fire first. The moment I shoot, he'll see the muzzle flash. We'll know exactly where we are. So what do we do?" "Wait. He'll make a mistake eventually." 10:47. Weber made his mistake. Shifted position to a window with a better angle. The movement took 3 seconds. Brief. But Sullivan saw it. More importantly, the mirror showed a second German sniper positioning on a rooftop behind Weber's location. Sullivan understood immediately. Weber wasn't alone. 2-man team. Standard German doctrine. If Sullivan shot Weber, the second sniper watching from a different angle would shoot Sullivan. Classic Doppelstellung, but without the movement between positions. Both Germans already in place. 2 Germans, one in factory window, one on roof behind factory. Our 2 o'clock, 550 yards. Rodriguez found the second German through his binoculars. I see him, same drill. Simultaneous shots. I take window. You take roof. Rodriguez shifted. M1. Garand aimed at the rooftop. Sullivan settled his scope on Weber's window. Weber was partially visible. Not a clean shot. Sullivan had to wait. Had to be patient. Weber shifted again. Clean exposure. 2 seconds of vulnerability. 3, 2, 1. Fire. The Springfield cracked. Weber jerked, hit high chest, fell back from the window. The instant Sullivan fired, Rodriguez fired. The rooftop sniper who had been tracking Sullivan's muzzle flash and was about to pull his trigger took a 30-06 round through the head, tumbled from the roof like a broken doll. Both down. Sullivan worked the bolt. Scanned. Mirror clear. No more threats. Rodriguez looked at him. Last one hoped so. Later intelligence confirmed it. Weber was the last active German sniper in Metz. His death ended German sniper operations in the sector. The hunters had been hunted to extinction, and they'd been beaten by something they never understood. A piece of glass that let Americans see everywhere at once. But victory came with a price Sullivan didn't see coming. December 20th. A training inspector arrived from the rear echelon. Lieutenant Colonel from the Ordnance Department. Came to inspect equipment and verify standards. He saw the crude mirrors on the rifles and his face went white with rage. Within 24 hours he had written a scathing report. Subject: unauthorized equipment modifications. 5th Infantry Division Sniper Platoon. The report documented everything. Improvised mirror devices attached to precision rifle scopes. Field expedient materials including electrical tape, telephone wire, and salvaged leather. Complete absence of standardization. No quality control, no manufacturing specifications. Potential damage to precision optical instruments. The violations were listed like crimes. Unauthorized modification of issued equipment. Use of non-standard materials, lack of proper documentation. The report's recommendations were clear. Immediate removal of all unauthorized modifications, disciplinary action against authorizing officers, formal investigation into equipment tampering. The report circulated for 2 weeks. Officers in the rear debated. On one hand, complete breach of regulations. On the other hand, survival rates that were unprecedented. The argument went in circles. Hayes fought back, wrote counter reports, documented everything. October casualty rate 23 killed in action. November casualty rate 3 killed in action. Kill ratio improvement from 1 to 2 up to 4 to 1. Testimonials from 15 snipers whose lives had been saved. German intelligence reports showing tactical confusion and withdrawal. He argued the only argument that mattered. Regulations exist to save lives. When regulations cause deaths and violations save lives, the regulations must change. He got ignored. Bureaucracy doesn't work on logic. It works on protocol. Hayes threatened to go to the division commander. Got warned that if he didn't drop it, he'd face charges for insubordination. Hayes was a captain fighting colonels. The outcome was inevitable. January 1945. The official evaluation team arrived from Aberdeen Proving Ground. 3 officers, 2 civilian ballistics experts. Their mission was to investigate irregular sniper modifications reported in the 5th Infantry Division. They inspected the mirrors, tested them at various ranges, interviewed the snipers who used them, measured field of view improvements, calculated tactical advantages, ran tests back at Aberdeen with proper instruments and controlled conditions, documented every result. January 18th. The official report. Subject: peripheral vision enhancement device. Evaluation results. The Aberdeen Proving Ground evaluation team has completed assessment of field-modified optical enhancement device discovered in 5th Infantry Division. Finding: device provides significant survivability improvement for sniper teams operating in urban environment with significant flanking threats. Technical assessment: simple mirror mounted to rifle scope housing at 45-degree angle provides approximate 140-degree field of view enhancement. Allows operator to maintain primary target acquisition while monitoring threat vectors outside normal scope field of view. Recommendation: immediate integration into sniper doctrine with standardized mounting brackets and manufacturing specifications. Recommend production and distribution to all sniper units. Design team, Aberdeen evaluation team, January 1945. No mention of Sullivan, no mention of Rodriguez, no mention of Hayes, no mention of Crawford or Chen dying. No mention of November 3, 1944, when a desperate private taped a shaving mirror to his rifle in a dark hotel room because he couldn't watch another partner drown in blood. The official record said Army evaluators identified the problem and developed the solution. Sullivan's name was erased. His innovation was stolen by committee. Institutional theft wrapped in official language and stamped with approval. February 1945. Hayes called Sullivan to his office. Hayes was furious. Threw the report on the desk. They stole it, the evaluation team. They're taking credit for your innovation. He showed Sullivan the official report. Sullivan read it. Saw his idea, his desperate midnight gamble credited to men who had tested it in safety while he had invented it under fire. When he handed the paper back, his face was calm. Sir, with respect, I don't care. Hayes stared. What I don't care about credit. You deserve recognition. You saved 60 lives. You changed sniper warfare, and they erased you. Sullivan's voice was steady, tired. Crawford is dead. Chen is dead. They can't be recognized. They can't go home. But Wilson is alive. Rodriguez is alive. Morrison, Reynolds, Parker, all alive. 40 other men I don't know are alive because they have mirrors on their rifles. That's what matters. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Sullivan continued. I didn't install that mirror for credit, sir. I installed it because I couldn't watch another partner drown in his own blood. If some committee in Maryland wants to write reports and take credit, let them. Long as snipers keep surviving, I don't care whose name is on the paper. Hayes looked at him. You're a better man than I am, Sullivan. No, sir, I'm just tired, and I want to go home. Hayes wasn't finished. 2 weeks later, he submitted Sullivan for the Medal of Honor. The citation detailed the mirror innovation, the 60 lives saved the complete reversal of tactical advantage in Metz. Higher command was embarrassed. An unauthorized modification that violated every protocol but saved more lives than any official doctrine. They couldn't court-martial the innovation and simultaneously decorate the inventor. The bureaucrats compromised. They approved the medal but removed all mention of the mirror from the citation. Just credited Sullivan with exceptional gallantry and innovative tactics. The ceremony was brief. December 20th. A Colonel Sullivan had never met pinned the medal to his chest. Reed sanitized words about courage and leadership. Never mentioned the mirror. Never mentioned Crawford or Chen. Never mentioned 40 minutes of holding a dying man while screaming for help that wouldn't come. Sullivan saluted. Accepted the medal. Returned to his position. Never mentioned it again. Would keep it in a duffel bag for the next 56 years. May 8, 1945. The war in Europe ended. Sullivan had survived 11 months of combat. 47 confirmed kills. The mirror had saved his life at least 6 times after that first morning. Maybe more. He stopped counting after a while. Rodriguez survived. 14 kills. Returned to Texas. Became a police officer in El Paso. For 30 years he kept a photograph of Sullivan's rifle on his desk. The mirror clearly visible in the image. Every time someone asked about it, he told them the story. Told them about a coal miner's son who couldn't watch another friend die. Told them about Crawford and Chen. Told them about November 3rd when everything changed. Wilson survived. 31 kills. Returned to Montana. Became a hunting guide. Taught clients about awareness and peripheral vision. About watching their flanks. About the difference between looking and seeing. Never mentioned the war unless they asked. When they did, he talked about a quiet man from Pennsylvania who saved his life 4 times with a piece of glass and some tape. Hayes stayed in the army. Retired in 1958 as a lieutenant colonel. Spent 13 years trying to get Sullivan officially credited for the mirror innovation. Writing letters, filing reports, pushing through bureaucracy. Contacted military historians. Submitted documentation to the War Department. Failed every time. The official history was written. Aberdeen had the credit. Sullivan's name wasn't in it. Hayes died in 1971 bitter about a system that stole credit from the men who bled for it. Sullivan mustered out in 1946, returned to Scranton, got his old job back at the factory, same work he did before the war, same machines, same pay, married Sarah Mitchell in 1947. Local girl who knew him before he left, who asked about the war once and understood from his silence never to ask again. They had 3 children, 2 sons named Michael and Robert after Crawford and Chen, 1 daughter named Jennifer. He lived quietly, worked 40 years at the factory, retired in 1985 with a pension and a handshake. When people asked about the war, he said he was a sniper and nothing more. Didn't mention the mirror. Didn't mention saving 60 lives. Didn't mention changing the face of warfare. Didn't mention the Medal of Honor gathering dust in his basement. Not from modesty, he just didn't think it mattered anymore. He kept his decorations in an old duffel bag in the basement. Never displayed them. Never talked about them unless directly asked. The local VFW knew. They'd see him at Memorial Day services, standing quiet in the back, never marching, never wearing his medals, never seeking attention. They knew what the Medal of Honor meant, knew he'd earned it in ways most men couldn't imagine. They respected his silence. His children grew up barely knowing their father had been in the war. He taught them to hunt, same patience he'd learned in the Pennsylvania mountains, same awareness, same ability to read terrain and wind and distance, same skills that had kept him alive in Metz. But he never explained where those skills came from, never connected the dots for them. They thought he was just dad, just a factory worker who liked to hunt on weekends. By the 1960s, the mirror modification was forgotten. New scopes had better optics, wider fields of view. Technology had caught up and moved on. The official Army history of sniper operations never mentioned Sullivan or his innovation. His contribution had been erased, not by malice, just by time, by bureaucracy, By the simple fact that field modifications aren't considered historically significant. Official developments are what get remembered. Official developments get the plaques and the recognition. Field expedients get forgotten. That should have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. June 7th, 2001. Sullivan died at home, 79 years old. Heart failure. Sarah was with him. His children were there, Michael and Robert and Jennifer. It was peaceful, quiet, the way he'd lived since coming home 55 years earlier. No pain, no drama, just a quiet man going quietly home. The obituary in the Scranton Times was short. Thomas Sullivan, 79 factory worker and World War II veteran, died June 7th. Survived by his wife Sarah, children Michael, Robert and Jennifer, and 7 grandchildren. Service at St. Mary's Church June 10th. In lieu of flowers donations to the local VFW. A good man who worked hard and loved his family. The standard words for a standard life. Nothing about Mets, nothing about the Mirror. Nothing about 60 lives saved. Just another veteran going home. The funeral was small. Family, a few friends, neighbors who'd known him for decades, guys from the factory, veterans from the VFW. The minister spoke about a good man who worked hard and loved his family, who served his country, who lived with dignity and died with grace. Standard eulogy. True words that missed the real story. People began to leave. Sarah and the kids stood by the casket, saying quiet goodbyes. 4 old men appeared at the church entrance. Sullivan's family didn't recognize them. All elderly, 70s and 80s, all wearing veteran caps, different units, different states, all standing together like they'd planned it, like they'd traveled a long way for this moment. Sarah looked at her children confused. Michael shrugged. Robert shook his head. None of them knew who these men were. The 4 men waited until the family came outside. Patient, respectful. Then the first one stepped forward. Hispanic man, aged but standing straight, tears already running down his face. He looked at Sarah. Mrs. Sullivan. My name is Sam Rodriguez. I was your husband's partner in November 1944. Sarah's face showed confusion. Tom had rarely mentioned the war. Never mentioned names. Never told stories. Just silence for 55 years. Rodriguez continued, voice shaking. Ma'am, your husband saved my life. I was 19 years old. German sniper had me dead to rights. Tommy's invention. A mirror he taped to his rifle scope. Let us see the German before he saw us. I've lived 57 years since that day. Raised 4 children, had a career. Met my grandchildren. Walked my daughter down the aisle 3 months ago. All because of what your husband invented in the dark with a 10-cent mirror and some tape. The second man stepped forward. Older. Weathered face. Montana accent. Frank Wilson, ma'am. Montana, Tommy installed a mirror on my rifle in November 44. Saved my life 4 times. 4 times I should have died. German snipers had me cold. I got to raise my kids, walk my daughters down the aisle, meet my grandchildren, all because Tommy Sullivan couldn't stand to watch his friends die anymore. The third man, thin, quiet voice, Midwest accent. Danny Morrison, Ohio. I never met your husband, ma'am. November 1944. I was infantry private, crossing a street in Metz. German machine gun team was setting up behind our position. Would have killed 30 of us. Tommy's partner spotted them in the mirror Tommy invented. Killed them before they could fire. I didn't know about it until 40 years later when a historian told me the story. Your husband saved my life and I never even knew his name until 1987. The fourth man, oldest of them all, leaning on a cane, voice strong despite his age. Mike Reynolds. I was sniper like Tommy. November 44. German was flanking me. Same tactic that killed 23 American snipers that month. Tommy saw him in his mirror. Killed him before he could shoot me. I survived the war. Became sheriff in Montana. Raised 3 daughters. Taught them to shoot. Taught them about awareness. About watching their flanks. Lived to 81. All because Tommy Sullivan saw a German I couldn't see. Sarah was crying. Her children stood silent. Learning about a man they thought they knew. Their father had never told them any of this. Never mentioned saving anyone. Never mentioned the mirror. Never mentioned Crawford or Chen. Never mentioned changing warfare. Never said a word about any of it. Just went to work every day and came home every night and was dad. Just quiet Tom who didn't talk much about the old days. Rodriguez spoke again, his voice breaking. Mrs. Sullivan, we read about his death in the Veterans newsletter. We drove hundreds of miles to be here. Sam from Texas, me from Montana, Danny from Ohio, Mike from Montana. We had to come. Had to make sure you knew your husband was a hero, not for killing Germans, for saving Americans, for saving us. The 4 old men stood at attention. back straight despite their age. Then slowly with military precision, they raised their hands in salute, held it for 10 long seconds, formal, perfect, a final goodbye to a man who saved their lives. Lowered their hands. The army never recognized what he did, Rodriguez said. They took credit themselves, put it in official reports under their own names. Aberdeen Proving Ground. Evaluators who tested the mirror in safety while Tommy invented it under fire, while he watched his partners die. But we know. The 60 of us who survived because of his invention. We know. We told our children. We told our grandchildren. Tommy Sullivan's name lives in our families even if it doesn't live in army records. Wilson spoke, his voice rough with emotion. My 3 daughters know. Sam's 4 kids know. Danny's 4 children know. Mike's 3 daughters know. That's 14 children who exist because your husband invented something the army said was illegal. Something he could have been court-martialed for. Probably 100 grandchildren by now. Maybe more. Generations that exist because a coal miner's son from Pennsylvania couldn't watch another friend die. That's his legacy, ma'am. Not medals, not plaques, lives, families, generations. Morrison pulled out a photograph, handed it to Sarah. Black and white, faded, 1944, Sullivan's rifle. The mirror clearly visible. Crude tape holding it to the scope. We each have a copy, Morrison said quietly. This is history. Real history. Not the sanitized version in the official reports. This is what actually happened. What your husband actually did. They left quietly after that. 4 old men who'd traveled hundreds of miles, who'd coordinated through veterans networks, who'd made sure someone in Sullivan's family knew the truth. Sarah and her children stood in the church parking lot, silent, looking at the photograph, learning about a man who'd lived with them for decades, a man who'd changed warfare and saved 60 lives and never said a word about it, who'd gone to work every day in a factory and come home every night and been just Dad, just Tom, just a quiet man who kept his stories locked inside. Michael looked at his mother. All those years, he never said anything. Sarah shook her head, tears streaming. Your father didn't talk about the war, I asked once, early on. The look in his eyes. I never asked again. Robert stared at the photograph. Crawford and Chen. That's why he named us. Sarah nodded. I thought it was just names he liked. But now, Jennifer looked at the Medal of Honor citation framed on the wall back at the house. The one her father never looked at. The one that sat in the basement until he died and they'd found it and framed it. Read the sanitized words that never mention mirrors or innovations or 60 lives saved. Just exceptional gallantry and innovative tactics in combat operations. They wrote it wrong, she said quietly. They left out the real story. That's what your father wanted, Sarah said. He told me once. Only once. He said the men who came home, that was what mattered. Not credit, not recognition, just that they came home. Today at the Infantry Museum in Fort Benning, Georgia, there's a display case in the World War II section. An M1903 Springfield rifle. Period correct, weathered, wood-worn. Metal showing age, and mounted on the scope is a small rectangular mirror. 4 inches by 6 inches. Metal frame, crude tape securing it. Yellowed with age but still there. The label reads Field Modification, late 1944. Peripheral vision enhancement device used by sniper teams in urban warfare. Mirror mounted to rifle scope allowed operators to monitor flanking threats while maintaining target acquisition. Widespread use. November 1944 through May 1945. European Theatre. Development Aberdeen. Proving Ground Evaluation Team, January 1945. No name attached. The wrong credit. The wrong history. But the mirror is there. Physical proof that it existed. That it worked. That it saved lives. Visitors walk past it every day. Most don't stop. It's just another rifle in a museum full of rifles. Just another piece of equipment. They don't know the story. Don't know about Crawford or Chen. Don't know about Sullivan's 40 minutes holding a dying man. Don't know about the desperate midnight installation in a ruined hotel. Don't know about 60 men who went home because of it, but 4 families know. Rodriguez family in Texas, Wilson family in Montana, Morrison family in Ohio, Reynolds family in Montana, 14 children, over 100 grandchildren now. Generations that exist because a coal miner's son from Pennsylvania couldn't watch another friend die. They tell the story. Pass it down. Make sure the next generation knows. Not the sanitized version. The real one. The one about a 22-year-old kid who watched his partners die and couldn't accept that mathematics. Who violated every regulation because survival mattered more than protocol? Who taped a shaving mirror to his rifle with hands shaking from cold and fear and changed the mathematics of death in Metz? Innovation in war doesn't happen in committees. It happens in the dark, in ruined hotels at 01:45 hours, by soldiers who see a problem, who risk everything because their friends are dying and they can't stand to watch anymore, who don't care about credit or recognition or having their names in history books, who just want their partners to come home alive. Sullivan didn't set out to change warfare. He set out to save Rodriguez, his third partner after watching the first two die, after carrying Crawford's body through ruins for 40 minutes, after holding Chen for 40 minutes while he drowned in his own blood, after being told a new partner was coming and knowing he was just being assigned another man to watch die. He set out to save one man. His idea saved 60. Crawford and Chen deserved to go home. They didn't. Sullivan carried that for 55 years. Never talked about it. But 60 others did go home. 60 others had families, had children, had grandchildren, had lives, because Sullivan broke the rules. Because he cared more about survival than regulations. Because he couldn't watch another partner die. Some innovations changed tactics. Sullivan's changed the mathematics of death. 23-3. 1-2 became 4-1. 60 men who should have died went home instead. The army put the wrong name on the invention. But the invention was real. The lives were real. The children and grandchildren are real. 4 old men drove hundreds of miles to make sure someone knew the truth, stood at attention, saluted a casket, told a widow and 3 children about the man their husband and father really was, about what he'd done, about the 60 lives, about the generations that exist because he couldn't accept the mathematics of death. The army erased his name from the official history. But Rodriguez remembered. Wilson remembered. Morrison and Reynolds remembered. They told their children, their grandchildren. The story lives in those families even if it doesn't live in army records. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's better than plaques and monuments and museum labels with the right names. Maybe the real legacy isn't bronze and marble. Maybe it's lives lived, families raised, grandchildren born, generations that exist because one man refused to accept that his friends had to die. Sullivan would have thought so. He never wanted the credit anyway. He just wanted his partners to come home. 60 of them did. That's enough.